All right. Can everybody hear me okay? Not on yet? Is that on now? Everybody hear me okay? In the back? No? Can you turn me up a little bit? Wizard behind the curtain. Got me? How about now? I mean, I can scream, but just not coming over the speakers. Okay, all right.
Just give you a second.
We'll get that fixed, but I'm not going to hold everybody up because we've got a full house tonight and a full foyer. Got it? Excellent. Good. Right in the nick of time. So, we do have a full house inside and in the foyer. Yeah, please come on in. Love those sweatshirts. Very classy. Like it. While they're trickling in, I'll go ahead and get started and just say that I would like to welcome everybody to the December the 5th, 2022 regularly scheduled council meeting. We are embarking on a very special meeting tonight. This is, I don't know if it's a state record or not, but we are going to be amongst rubbing elbows with as many state champions as I can ever remember being in one room at one time. So it's a pretty exciting night for everybody, but we will make it as quick as we can because we don't want to hold you too long. With that all being said, Kim, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Owens.
Here.
Mr. Anderson.
Here.
Ms. Pillion. Here. Ms. Quetch. Here. And Mayor Webb.
Here. At this time, I'd like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, if possible. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all very much. And at this time, I would like to welcome up Mr. Tyler Vinsel, the community pastor for Highlands Fellowship. It is so nice, Tyler, to have you back in the hot seat to lead us in prayer.
Well, I appreciate it. It's an honor to be here, and I would like to say that the town looks wonderful. We've got a great public works department, a great parks department, tourism, all staff. But the town looks great. They've done a really good job making it look festive. And also, the Halloween event was awesome. We were able to take part in that, and that was just a great event. So it's really good vibes here in the town. So proud to be here and in front of you tonight. So let's bow our heads. Father God, we're so thankful for this opportunity to be in this country, to be in a place where we can make decisions that benefit the public. And that we have an opportunity to serve you and to honor you with that. And God, we just pray that you would be in the decisions tonight, that you would be in the minds of the council as they make the decisions, and that it would be for the best of the citizens of the town of Abingdon, and that you would move us forward towards you, towards what you'd have for us. And we're so grateful and thankful to live in this town and to be here tonight. It's in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Tyler. Thanks for coming back, buddy. All right, council, at this time, I would entertain approving the agenda unless we have changes to be made.
Also move.
A motion by Ms. Pillion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Anderson. Any discussion, council? Hearing none, Kim, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Owens.
Aye.
Mr. Anderson.
Aye.
Ms. Pillion. Aye. Ms. Quetch. Aye. And Mayor Webb.
Aye. I apologize. All this greatness in the room at one time is getting me kind of nervous. Y'all just bear with me while I'm trudging through the agenda. I'm teasing. That does bring us to the public comments. Tonight we do have one individual signed up for public comments. If you'll please approach the council, Dr. Mark Matney. If you'll state your name and address, and you've got your 3 minutes to speak.
Hello, everyone. Dr. Mark J. Matney, 245 Leonard Street. I'm the Commissioner of Revenue in Washington County. First of all, I want to say Merry Christmas, everybody, and congratulations to our state champions. Appreciate you all. First thing I just wanted to say is, you may wonder why the Washington County Commissioner of Revenue is here. Well, one thing, I'm a taxpayer in the town of Abingdon, not just the county taxpayer, and I vote here as well in town. So I'm a town resident, but the Commissioner's office has a special relationship for the town. We do your assessments on property. If you don't have the assessments, you can't tax and you won't get no revenue. So we are working for the town as well as the county taxpayers. Now, I sent Derek and Amanda an email about a situation, and I didn't mean to offend anybody. That wasn't my intent. Have you ever got a tax bill and you opened that tax bill up and you said, man, I'm gonna have to go to a different business? I open my tax bill up from the town. I don't think about any businesses or that I'm gonna have to change and get away from a business. But unfortunately, here in the town, we got a little situation, and I wouldn't be a good steward of the community if I didn't stand up for businesses when they're being hurt by a tax. Highlands Glass and Cozart and maybe some of the other storage units in the town, when those people get a bill for their camper from Washington County and then from the town, all they have to do is hook the camper up and pull it to the county to another storage unit. So I don't know what the fix to that is, but I just wanted you all to be aware of that. I know of no other tax where people open it up and say, I need to get away from that business. But in this situation, you got people open up their bill and they say, well, I can fix this problem. I'll take my business somewhere else. And it's as simple as hooking a truck to it and pulling it away. Now, the commissioner's office doesn't determine what is taxed. We don't tax anyone absolutely at all. The state, the county, the town council, you all decides what is taxed, how it's taxed, and I know in some cases the state ties your hands. But for example, you have a mills tax, the county doesn't. That's a council decision, the county decision. But what I'm getting at is, I don't know if you can, I don't know as a council whether legally you can say, we're just not going to tax campers and boats and solve the problem. I don't know if you can do that legally. I do know that you can set the tax rate at 0.005, and that's pretty much exempting the situation. And I just had two things I wanted to pass on to you real quick. Since I've been in office, you have all kinds of towns residents and I guess county residents that walk over to the government center. And they've complained, I guess because I'm in the building, they've complained to me for 3 years about the lights over there. The lights going up the street to where now they've put the statue, they've been out for 3 years. And you got some other lights down that street are out. I just thought you might want to have somebody address that. And the only other thing is, I'm getting old, and I feel for some of the other people getting old too, but before COVID, the bathrooms over here by the farmer's market, they were open 24 hours a day. And now they close them at 5 when the visitor center closed. That means if you work in the town and you're a town resident, you're at work and the out-of-towners can come and go to the bathroom whenever they need. But, so I just would like, I don't know if it's possible, but I would like to see those bathrooms open 24 hours again if it's possible. Thank you all.
Thank you. All right, council, that brings us to the approval of the minutes. Tonight, we just had one meeting last month, so we're just taking up the November 7th, 2022 meeting. If there are no changes to the agenda or the meeting agenda and minutes, I would entertain a motion to approve them as they were.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Vice Mayor Quetch. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Owens. Any discussion, council? Hearing none, Kim, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Owens?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Ms. Pillion? Aye. Ms. Quetch?
Aye.
And Mayor Webb.
Aye. All right, that brings us to our proclamations tonight, of which we've got two. And as I alluded to earlier, it's a very special night for the Abingdon Town Council. It is rare that you get to recognize and celebrate 3 state championship teams, not individuals, but teams, at one time in one room. So this is a pretty special night, and I want to preface it by saying, and I say this all the time, I feel like a broken record, but I'm seeing a lot of you guys frequently, guys and gals, and the parents too, so I'll start with the parents. I just want to say thank you to the parents. I was an athlete, I purport to still be an athlete, and I know what type of dedication it takes to achieve a high level of success, and without the parents, and your dedication and contribution to these children's lives, they would never have gotten here. So thank you, parents, for what you've done, because it truly is a big commitment. On to the coaches. The coaches are often left out of the equation and not recognized. But coaches, again, I know how many years, if not decades, of training it takes to get to a level of these young men and women. And I want to thank the coaches for your commitment to these student athletes, because again, without your commitment, they likely would never have reached this level of success. So I wanted to celebrate you all just a little bit to preface it. At this time, though, first up, we're going to have a proclamation to honor and recognize the Abingdon High School golf team 2022 for winning a third straight, and I believe 6 out of 8 years. Is that right? Wow. What a dynasty. State golf championship for Class 3 in Virginia. And Mr. Owens is going to read that proclamation for us.
This proclamation is to honor and recognize the Abingdon High School Golf Team 2022 for winning a third straight Class 3 state golf championship. Whereas the town of Abingdon wishes to honor and recognize the Abingdon High School Golf Team comprised of 9 members and coaches winning the Virginia High School League Class 3 state golf championship. Whereas the commitment required for student athletes to be part of a sports team, including meeting required grades, attendance, and volunteer requirements, in addition to attending daily practices and scheduled competition events. And whereas on October 11th, 2022, Abingdon High School Golf Team competed in the Class 3A State Championship at Stonehenge Golf and Country Club in Richmond, Virginia. And whereas Abingdon finished with a 4-person, 306 finish, 12 strokes ahead of Lord Bodetot on a 6,572-yard par 72 course, the Falcons earned their third straight state title, 6 in the last 8 seasons. And whereas, therefore, by virtue of the authority invested in the mayor and on behalf of the Abingdon Town Council, the citizens, I applaud the commitment of the Abingdon High School Golf Team 2022 Class 3A state champions, winning a third straight title.
And before I come down and hand out the plaques and all that fun stuff, I want to say, I've watched many of you come through my backyard for many years. And not only are you polite, but you're very, very motivated, driven. How many days I've watched you guys and gals come through. It just blows my mind just how proficient this team has become. Just a dynasty. I say this, Coach Delp, every time you come before the council, but what a dynasty. We keep looking for a place in town to put a sign, but it's going to have to be bigger and bigger every time you guys come home with hardware. So we're still looking for that perfect place, but the signage is going to be so big now it probably won't fit into our own guidelines. Tease and we'll make an exception for that, right?
So the first person to recognize is Grace Addison. Unisu Smith. Dalton Minnick. Mason Funk. Jackson Cook. Ben Puckett. Colin McClintock. Cash Hu. Connor Brummett. Ella Walker. Coaches Jason Dell. Adam Abel. Kenny Switzer.
I'm gonna sneak back up here, all right? Maybe. Maybe. What a good-looking team. Let's squeeze in here, council. That's it. Gotta be big and strong to play golf, Kim. Done. All right. Congratulations. Sure.
I brought something for you all, if it's all right to hand them out.
Sure.
Came across some extra state championship medals, and thought that since we've made a habit of this, I better leave you with a gift. So, Councilmember Anderson,
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Beautiful. Thank you.
That's me, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to put too much pressure on you all, but I feel like we need to just go ahead and carve it into the calendar for next
Hey,
year.
thank you, Coach. Hey, Coach.
And I've got one for the hardest working person.
That's it, Kim Kingsley. That's it. Well, as I said before, I mean, words just don't do it justice. We are so incredibly proud of you all, and this is one of the most fun things we get to do as council members. So thank you again for your commitment to excellence academically and athletically in the town. You are absolutely wonderful stewards to the community. Give them a round of applause. All right, and to keep that momentum up, we're going to dive right into the proclamation to honor and recognize the Abingdon High School cross-country teams, men and women, for winning the Class 3 state titles, which I believe is the first time. Coach, is that right saying that's the first time that's ever happened on this side of Roanoke? Is that right? In 3A? Yeah, so there you go, to throw some fuel on that fire, right? I'm going to have Ms. Pillion read this proclamation if you guys are ready for it.
Congratulations. This one is near and dear to my heart because there are 2 Pillions on this team. Whereas the town of Abingdon wishes to honor and recognize the Abingdon High School Boys State Championship cross-country team comprising 8 members and the Abingdon High School Girls State Championship cross-country team comprising of 7 members and the team's coaches. And whereas the commitment required for student athletes to be a part of a sports team includes meeting required academic success, attendance, and a commitment to a rigorous daily training program. And whereas those sacrifices paid off on Saturday, November 12th, 2022, when the boys and the girls cross-country teams competed in the VHSL Class 3A State Championship in Salem, Virginia. And whereas the girls' team was Mountain 7 district champions with a score of 19 points, outscoring the second-place team by 37 points, and the boys' team was the Mountain 7 district runner-up with a score of 37 points, with McKaylee Jesse and Jack Bundy garnering the individual Mountain 7 district titles, and Josie Jackson and Reeves Boltwood earning the runner-up titles. The teams also captured the Region 3D championship titles. The girls' team scored 26 points, outscoring the second-place team by 38 points. The boys' team scored 29 points, outscoring the second-place team by 28 points, with McKaylee Jesse and Jack Bundy again garnering the Region 3D individual titles, and Josie Jackson and Reeves Boltwood earning the runner-up titles. And whereas the boys' team made school history by winning the first ever back-to-back VHSL State Cross Country Championship title for Abingdon High School with 65 points, outscoring the second-place team by 32 points. The girls' team won the school's second ever VHSL State Cross Country Championship title with 45 points, outscoring the second-place team by 42 points. And whereas McKaylee Jesse garnered the girls' state individual championship, and whereas the coaching staff and members of the Abingdon High School boys and girls cross-country teams made a significant impact on their school and community by winning the championships, and whereas it is with pride that the town council recognizes the commitment and dedication of these students who serve as a model for citizens of the Commonwealth. And therefore, by the authority invested in me as a member of the council, the rest of the council, and by Mayor Webb, and on behalf of Abingdon Town Council and citizens, I hereby commend the 2022 Abingdon High School boys and girls cross-country teams for their tireless efforts and achievements. The council wishes them success in their future endeavors.
You know, just to point out a couple of things, I actually was lucky enough to be off work and get the opportunity to go watch this race. And the numbers don't do it justice. These teams whipped everybody. I mean, it's just true. It was a beatdown. The women and the men absolutely had great races. There's not a kid in this room that didn't just run their heart out. It was very, very impressive to watch. I think the golf team is rubbing off on the cross-country team because you guys are creating a dynasty now. And just real briefly, I want to say, you know, how much fun it's been to watch you all progress. I have run with many of you in my younger days when I could actually keep up. It is just so incredible to watch you progress over the years. The past 5, 6, 7 years, and you certainly have big shoes to fill next year. But I challenged the women, if you remember, at the last meeting we had, and I said, you guys are going to have to, you ladies are going to have to outdo the men. And I'm pretty sure the women did actually outdo the men at state, just by a small margin, but impressive nonetheless. And I do want to just not to pick on anybody, because everybody had great races. We're super, super impressed. But McKaylee, what a race. I mean, it wasn't even close. Absolutely just roasted everybody. So give a nod out to McKaylee, all right? And now I'll come out and hand out the medals. Y'all collecting these plaques. Do you have big walls full of? All right.
Okay, for the boys, Sam Beasy. Reeves Boltwood. Jack Bundy. Bramley Childress. Luke Gibson. Henry Pillion.
Nice job, Henry.
Teddy Pillion.
Nice job, Teddy.
Greg Poisson.
We're going to bring the ladies up as well right now?
Sure, however you want me to do it.
You want to do them separate or together? Can we fit everybody up here together, coaches? Okay. All right, let's keep going.
Okay, the ladies. Elena Baker. Aaliyah Dorn. Amanda Ferrante. Josie Jackson. Michaela Jesse. Cecilia Johnson. Josie Teeson. And our coaches, head coach Allison Newton. And assistant coach Brent Sweeney.
Let's get some pictures,
Stand on something.
That's a crowd right there.
Congratulations,
And I don't expect for our youth to stay for the rest of the meeting. I know it's going to be a lengthy one tonight, but I will let you leave on this note. We are incredibly proud of what you've accomplished. And again, words don't do it justice. But this meeting may not seem like a big deal to you all tonight. But I have a feeling one day you'll look back and remember that we gave you these lousy plaques and things. And we, for sure, will remember this as this one goes down as a record, in my mind, of the most state champions in one room at one time in Abingdon's history. Give them a hand. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Absolutely, yeah.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you. Absolutely. You're doing great work, man.
Thank you.
Thank you. I like the A's with the flag.
Mother-daughter state champion.
The A's, they certainly.
I'd say if you had a problem with the signage, the size of the signage, you guys could probably do something about that.
Yeah. We'll get one
That's
that
when there's
shines
big
into the
golf
sky at
balls.
We're gonna
night.
have to figure something out,
How
right?
about a big golf ball?
We want it,
I
we
know,
want
we
it to
do.
look like Grundy's wrestling style.
That's what we're going for, right?
We need a big golf ball and then engrave the ears on it.
We do need to think of a good place for the sign.
On the water tower next to Mike's house.
I got some crayons.
Oh, that's fun.
Kind of looks like a golf ball. You can paint it white.
Well, I know it feels a bit lonely now that all the young athletes are leaving the room, but we still have a lot of exciting stuff to come, I promise. All right. That brings us to our public hearings. We do have two public hearings tonight, and we have a couple of individuals signed up to speak. So I think the first one we'll have. Who's going to come up and talk about the first one?
I can, but Tanya probably.
Is Tanya here? Where's Tanya?
She's hiding back there.
I see a hand. There we go. Tanya, if you want to come up and be on standby, we'll have you explain a little bit about this one before we have the public hearing. That way everybody know what we're talking about. Yeah, come on up, Link. So the first public hearing we have tonight is pursuant to Article 7, Section 9 of the Constitution of Virginia, Code Section 15-2-1800, to consider a deed of dedication of 1.8 acres of open space land, parcel number 105A35. This deed is necessary to obtain grant funding for Virginia Outdoor Foundation's Preservation Trust Fund Public Access Program, that's a mouthful, for the consideration of certain portions of a bicycle pump track. Ms. Triplett.
So we were donated 1.8 acres, a triangle that joins the Virginia Creeper Trail on one side, the Meadows Sports Complex on one side, and I-81 on the other side. And we were given that property from the Nice Wonders. In order to be eligible for the $125,000 that we received from Virginia Outdoors, they require that we do a deed dedication and dedicate that property as open space. So we were awarded the grant, and now we're here to you tonight, asking you to approve this deed dedication. Mr. Bell has worked extensively on the paperwork to make sure we're in good order.
Does that mean I'm supposed to talk?
What, if you want to.
So the public hearing requirement is that we're defeasing of some of the property. Actually, it will still belong to the town, but it will be dedicated to open space. There's a specific statute that applies to that. If it ever stops being used for the purposes of what we're using, the statute allows it to revert out of open space, but it does need to be dedicated into open space for this use, and we hope that it'll be in that use forever. But there is a deed that's been drafted along with some attachments to the survey and the deed from the Nice Wonders, as well as a grant application. The grant application doesn't require the public hearing, so the public hearing is really just for the dedication of it for use as a public space.
All right. Link, you want to wait till public hearing portion, or you want to come up? Okay, all right, excellent. All right, so then procedurally, this is a public hearing. I'll open the public hearing, and Link, you're first signed up.
I'm Link Elmore. I'm with the nonprofit locally Abingdon Cycling. We help do cycling infrastructure projects and run the local mountain bike team for high school and middle school youth. We don't yet have any state champions, but it's investments, like this in the pump track and then our trail system that hopefully one day will be presenting some young people on bicycles with similar plaques and celebrating them. I'm here in support of this deed of dedication and want to thank, there's a lot of people to thank. There's the town staff, there's the Virginia Outdoors Foundation for providing the funding, there's the Nice Wongers for dedicating the land over to the town. So we're grateful, we're in support of it. I'm happy to answer any questions you've got, but great project. And I think it's wonderful that we're able to leverage funding, from outside the town to do good things for the town. And it's really an extension of the good work that's already been successful at the sports complex. So this is just an extension of good things keep on going.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. Does anybody else have a desire to come up and speak? If not, then I'll close the public hearing. We'll take this up just a little bit later. We do have a second public hearing tonight. The second public hearing is to solicit public input on local community development concerning Community Development Block Grant, otherwise known as CDBG, local innovation proposal to be submitted to the Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development for the Appalachian Highlands to Community Dental Center Expansion Project. That is a long name, but I got it. The project proposal will include the following activities. Funds will be used to pay a portion of equipment and construction costs to build and equip 5 additional operatories. This project will enable the clinic to double patient capacity. Phase 2 would provide training space required to support other residents and current equipment in remaining ops, which will be moved. All right. So on public hearing number 2, Cam, who do we have coming up?
I think that's the Tanya show again.
It is the Tanya show tonight. Come on up, Tanya.
So I came to you in July of this past year, July the 11th, and we had our first public hearing for this project. So a second public hearing is required. It is part of the pre-application process for Virginia Community Development. So that is what we're doing here tonight. We have a resolution for you to look at a little bit later, but it is required for the pre-application. So what will happen that is we move through this process, we would create an MOU after we apply and know if we've gotten the money. We would create an MOU with the Appalachian Highlands Dental Clinic, and then we would move forward to help them out with their expansion.
Okay. All right. And again, this is a public hearing, so at this time I'll open the public hearing. I think we've got 3 persons signed up. First up, we've got Miss Jan Hurt. Welcome.
I'm Jan Hurt, and I just wanted to explain to the council, although I think you already know, how important this clinic is to the well-being of so many of our citizens who don't have the funds to pay for good dental care. I was so impressed with the work the clinic's done that I set up a fund for the working poor, the people who are working but make too much money for Medicaid and still don't have enough to afford dental care. So I'd like to read some thank you notes that I've gotten. It's been a while since I could smile in public. Thank you for everything and your help in letting me smile every day. Thank you for your contribution to the Appalachian Dental Clinic. You allowed me to receive a lower denture that feels like my real teeth. I couldn't have done it without you. This from a young woman at a fast food place. Thank you so much for the help. I don't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. I can't thank you enough. And I think this one's really sweet. She states her name and says, I've experienced issues with my teeth and smile all my life. Next Saturday, I'm getting married with a beautiful, healthy smile. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. This is a really important addition to our community. And these people that are thanking me, I couldn't have done it without Todd Pillion and Scott Miller and everything that went into putting the clinic together. So I just wanted to speak in support of it, and I know you all are in support of it. Thank you.
All right, next up, we've got Elaine Smith. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Elaine Smith, and I'm the Executive Director at Appalachian Highlands Community Dental Center. First off, and most importantly, we wanted to thank you for considering us for this grant. For those of you who might be wondering who we are or what we do at Appalachian Highlands Community Dental Center, we're a dental residency program that is supported by JMH and Ballot Health. We have two purposes. First of all, we're a nonprofit dental clinic, and we serve the two purposes. We're a safety net community for dental clinic for a large number of patients that do not have access to dental care. Added to this, with the recent expansion of Medicaid, adult dental Medicaid, which has been huge for our community, we're probably one of the largest providers in Southwest Virginia, and we're overwhelmed at this point. I mean, there are so many patients that need treatment. I hate to say, but we have to put a lot on a wait list. We just don't have the capacity to take care of all of them. Our second purpose is a certified advanced education in general dentistry, which is our AEGD program, is what we're called, we're referred to. We take dental school graduates through a full year of intensive training far beyond what they experienced in dental school. By combining the nonprofit clinic and the residency program, we're able to provide comprehensive dental care to these patients other than just the emergency treatment and to get them out of pain. So, thank you for your support. We really do appreciate it. If we can expand, that means more patients we can treat. So thank you.
Thank you.
We also have Dr. Dana, is it Chamberlain? Did I say that right? Okay, I apologize.
That's close enough.
Yeah. Welcome.
I'm Dana Chamberlain. I'm on the faculty at the Appalachian Highlands Community Dental Center. It is a long word. Takes our receptionists 2 or 3 days to be able to say that without tripping over their tongues.
So I did okay tonight.
Oh, yeah. And actually, I'm proud to see the athletes here. My son ran cross-country for 4 years up in Marion, that vulgar community up the road in the 90s. So and I know how much effort that takes to be able to get up early in the morning and run 8 miles before you go to class. As an added benefit to some of the things that Elaine was talking about, is that we've had 3 of our residents over the last 2 years who decided to stay in the community and open private or go into private practice. So that gives them the opportunity to continue to serve our area, which is grossly underserved. We currently have 5 residents and 5 dental chairs. We have 2 hygienists working out of 2 dental bays, and we have one kind of a half of a treatment room. We have a chair in there and some equipment, but it's cramped and we don't have any lighting, but we can go in there with headlamps on and do some minor procedures. This expansion is going to allow us to go from 7.5 dental chairs to 14 dental chairs and accept 7 residents. The last couple of years, we've had 5, and so next year, we're hoping to be able to put 7 residents to work. The problem with having 5 residents working out of 5 chairs is that it takes time to turn over those chairs when you're finished. And so they're twiddling their thumbs waiting for something to do. We don't have any place to put emergencies. This expansion will allow us to have some additional space so that the resident can finish a procedure here, go right over there and get to work right away while this room is being turned over, and give us places that we can put emergencies. So since we've opened, we've treated over 9,000 patients. We've hosted 7, what we call a mini mission of mercy, and where we do free extractions and provide free dentures. We've done 599 oral cancer screenings, 1,269 extractions, 471 free dentures, and this year alone we've donated over $2,800,000 in free dental care. So we'd like to do some more. We'd like your help. Thank you.
Thank you. As I said before, this is a public hearing. If anyone else would like to come up and speak, they're more than welcome to do so now. If not, then I'll close that public hearing. We'll take that up in just a few minutes. I spoke wrong earlier. I said we had 2 public hearings. We actually have 3. The third one is a culmination of a year and a half worth of work, so I certainly can't forget it. It's a public hearing for the proposed comprehensive updates to the town zoning and subdivision ordinance. Mayanna, it's the Mayanna Show.
The show continues.
That's it.
I feel like we might have to all go for a run after this or something. So yes, we have been working on this for about a year and a half, and it all started with a kickoff, March 1st of 2021. And at that time, the Berkeley Group came in as our consultants, and Rebecca's here tonight to give a short presentation. We had public inputs and workshops throughout 2021. A draft was created at the end of 2021, and then throughout 2022, the Planning Commission has tirelessly worked on amending, editing, reviewing the entire draft. So tonight we're here for the formal public hearing and adoption. And I also wanted to mention that the staff departments also, the staff throughout the town departments also had a chance to comment and make changes, and they also participated. So tonight you're reviewing a final draft, but if we hear edits and comments from the public, those can be incorporated as the adoption won't happen until next month with a second hearing. There are 2 comments, well, there are kind of 3 comments that I have heard since we put out this draft. The first is that there was a fire department edit that needed to be included that we still need to get in there related to the spacing of fire hydrants. And the second was there was not an intention to have the short-term rentals indicate that they are owner occupied, and the way that the language reads in there, it still appears to have that in there, indicating that a person could not own a short-term rental as a separate home, and that was not the intention. The final comment that I had heard earlier this week was, did we have an underline and strike-through version? And I can tell you, based on the extensive work that's been put into this, if we had an underline and strike-through version, it would be unreadable. So this tonight is truly a replacement of both the zoning ordinance and the subdivision regulations. And so combining those together will make the whole process move more quickly and efficiently as people come into the community and want to develop individual projects, commercial or large-scale projects. So with that, I'll turn it over and let Rebecca run you through what we've been through. Sure. And I realize you have a full agenda, so I will try to kind of move through this quickly. I know that council, you all have already heard some of this, but I'm going to do a little due diligence as well for any public that are interested. But this, I got to say, it's a tough act to follow. I mean, state champions and dental work, helping people smile. So sorry, this is not quite as fun or interesting. But I'm going to just talk a little bit about what a zoning and subdivision ordinance is, the process that we've been through so far. Mayanna touched on it a little bit. And then I'll go over just some of the basics, what's in the ordinance, kind of highlight some of those major changes, just if people are interested in those. So, the town has a comprehensive plan, which is your policy document. It sets sort of the vision and the goals that you're trying to reach and achieve in the future. But it's a policy document and not a regulatory document. The zoning ordinance and subdivision ordinance are regulatory documents. So these are the things that the town can use to help achieve that vision. It kind of gives that vision teeth, if you will. The zoning ordinance is going to regulate the use of the land, so it says what types of businesses can go where. It also regulates structures, so saying how tall a building can be, where it needs to sit on the property in terms of how far from the road or from your property lines, those types of things. And it's there for the health, safety, and welfare of the community, ensuring, protection for everyone. The subdivision ordinance is regulating the division of land and making sure there's adequate streets and utilities and right-of-ways and those types of things. Also paired with the zoning ordinance is a zoning map. So the zoning ordinance divides the town into zoning districts. There's residential districts, business districts, and so on. And so they are depicted on a map, the official zoning map of Abingdon. The map is not being changed through this process. So there are changes to rules within the districts, but the lines in terms of where those are in the town are not changing. So if you are currently own a piece of property that's zoned R2, it's still going to be zoned R2 after this is adopted. In terms of the process, as Mayana mentioned, back in 2021, we started with community input. There was a survey, there were stakeholder interviews, there was a public workshop just trying to gain information about the community, what that vision is, the problems that were occurring with the current ordinance. And then we went through drafting with the Planning Commission. And again, Planning Commission has been very dedicated and helpful throughout this process. And we edited and fine-tuned and then took that to a public open house where the public got to see the full draft, provide comments. We came before you all explaining where we are and what we've heard so far. And now we're here at this adoption stage with the public hearing. So moving into, tell me about the ordinance, Rebecca. I can't wait, right? So the ordinance structure is 11 articles. The first bit of that is sort of housekeeping and administration, and then it gets into some meat and some regulations about the districts and the uses. And then subdivision is the ordinance that's kind of tacked on here at the end to make this one cohesive document. And I'll just briefly touch on each of these articles. So Articles 1 through 3 are really heavily based on the Code of Virginia. Title 15.2, Chapter 22 says a lot about what you can do and what you can't do in terms of a zoning ordinance and a subdivision ordinance. And so it allows you to regulate land development and orderly subdivision, and we make sure we reference those portions of state code. And then we also outline all the powers and duties of staff in terms of administration, Planning Commission, Board of Zoning Appeals, also telling the procedure. So if someone applies for a permit, what are the procedures that they have to follow, as well as what are the procedures that the town has to follow in terms of time frames. In terms of kind of big changes here, it's really just about organization and some best practice. The HPRB, we've added some language for their consideration of historic sites. And then for certificates of appropriateness and site plans, we've just organized that a bit better. It was sort of spread throughout the current ordinance, and we've made it kind of sit in one place, easier to find and read. Article 4 is zoning districts. Here we've put kind of all of those regulations into tables to make it a little easier to work with in terms of how we've changed the actual regulations. Front setbacks are now measured from the front property line. We've reduced lot area and lot frontage requirements in the R4 and the B1 districts. We added a minimum open space requirement in R3 and R4.
And then there's a new R5 district that's been added. And this is if someone wants to have a development with a little bit more density, they can utilize and apply to R5. Article 5 is the special and overlay districts. Here is the old and historic district. Currently, there are 15 sub-districts within this. We've consolidated that down. That's one of the first things that we heard in community engagement, was that seemed to be too many. It was hard to manage. It's been consolidated down to 5. We will look at a map of that at the end of this presentation. The Plan Technology District, we added a minimum open space requirement. The plan unit development, we've increased density from 14 to 20 units, as well as allowing commercial construction a little earlier on in that process. And then this article also contains the overlays flood hazard, airport safety, and historic entrance corridor. Not significant changes in those, just making sure they're aligned with state and federal codes. Article 6 is your use permissions. There are 2 tables in this. The first table has kind of all of your main districts, your residential business districts, those types of things. The next table has the sub-districts of the old and historic district. And these tables provide all of the uses that are allowed in Abingdon and lets you know in what particular district it is permitted by right, by special use permit, and if it's blank, it means that it's not allowed at all. One thing to consider when you're using this is if you're looking for a particular use, you might not find it spelled out, like if you're doing a bowling alley or a skating rink, it's going to be listed as commercial indoor recreation, because we have made some consolidations, used some modern terminology, just so that this ordinance can last for many years to come. Following that is the next article is use performance standards. And the use performance standards are in addition to the district standards. So if you have a use that might be allowed by right, and so you have to follow the district standards in terms of lot size and setbacks and those types of things. But if there's a chance that this particular use might have some negative impacts to neighbors and that sort of thing, there are additional standards supplied, such as things like limiting square footage or addressing noise, number of customers that can be on a piece of property at a time. There's other standards as well. Those are just some examples. And then examples of uses that do have additional standards are accessory dwelling unit, agriculture, agritourism, home occupations, mobile vending, and short-term rental. As Mayanna mentioned, short-term rental is one that we do have a little tweak for, just to take out and make it clear that it's not owner-occupied. The next article is community design standards. There's 4 divisions in here: lighting, landscaping, parking, and signs. And all of these are just trying to ensure that Abingdon remains beautiful and even increases its beauty over time. So some basics here is lighting includes some height limitations. So industrial district is a 30-foot maximum. Other districts is a 20-foot maximum. It also needs to be full cutoff lighting, just to prevent light trespass and that sort of thing from other going on to other properties. Landscaping, walls, and fences, changes here for the entrance corridor, just being clear and more specific about the number of trees that are required. Also parking lot landscaping, having a buffer of 1 tree every 40 feet, and then planting islands for 20 or more spaces, making sure that it's not heat islands. You have some actual trees for shade, as well as for water protections. Screening and enclosures, there's requirements to screen around dumpsters and utility equipment. Walls and fences, there's requirements about using compatible material, as well as having the finished portion to the outside, keeping it in good repair, those types of things. Again, just making sure it looks good and isn't unsightly.
In terms of parking and loading, this has been edited just with best practices. We're allowing joint use of space. We're allowing parking a distance from your actual business and those types of things. In terms of signs, this was adopted previously, but there are a few tweaks with everything. After you've kind of lived with it for a little bit, you kind of see some new things. And so some adjustments here are for temporary sign permits, reducing the type and size of signs on residential lots, clarifying standards for off-premise signs, and signs in the right-of-way. Then nonconformities. Whenever an ordinance changes a rule, there's the potential for nonconformities. And so one thing to know is that a lot of people call this grandfathering. And so they are grandfathered if today it is a legal conforming use based under the current ordinance. And then if something is adopted that changes and they don't meet the ordinance anymore, they are considered non-conforming. They can continue. The ordinance does address, if it's a structure, how they can expand. If it's a particular use, if they discontinue it, they do lose that status of non-conformity or grandfathering after 2 years. The big change here is that we are clear that full internal remodel of non-conforming structures is allowed. Abingdon has a lot of historic buildings and you want to keep those. And so this allows that exterior to stay and someone to fully remodel the inside. Subdivisions. Big thing here is that the subdivision ordinance is no longer a standalone ordinance. It's moving into the zoning ordinance. This just makes it a lot easier to administer and for people to find what they're looking for because these two really do tie together. We've organized it a little bit differently, just again to make it easier in terms of big changes. And there is administrative approval of 2 lots. So if you've got a parcel, you're dividing it one time, that can be administratively approved, and then town council can approve streets and sidewalks and changes to those things. And subdivisions is also another place where we will be tweaking that text related to the fire chief. Currently it's specifying the number of hydrants, and the change would be to just relate to the state code instead of specifying a specific number. Then there is definitions. Here we're just making sure every use is defined and then that there is clarity among all of the other definitions. Here's the map that I promised. So this is the sub-districts of the Olden Historic District. You'll note the numbers there are the current sub-districts. And then the colors is what that is changing to. So for example, the kind of pinky red color there, you can see the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Those are those current districts that are being combined into one OH1 district, which is for civic and business focused. This is along Main Street. The OH2, I believe, is along Valley Street. Then there's a OH3, artisan focused, a small area there, which is currently sub-districts 13 and 14. And then Sinking Spring is a sub-district, and the Muster Grounds is a separate sub-district. So this is what the map will look like once adopted. And then that concludes my presentation. I'll answer any questions if anyone has any. And I want to thank you all for your diligence and the Planning Commission, and it's been a pleasure to work with you and create this.
Council, any questions for her while she's here?
Well, we have the chair of the Planning Commission here. I just wonder if you'd like to make any comments.
Kenny, did you have anything you'd like to say before public comments, or?
No, if there are any questions that I can answer on behalf of the commission, I'm here to do that.
All right. Anything you have to think of, council? All right, and this is a public hearing. So at this time, I would open the public hearing if anybody would like to come up and ask questions or speak or anything of that nature. Don't have anybody signed up, so second call for a public hearing. Anybody want to come up and speak? If not, then I'll close that public hearing, and of course, we'll take this up later. Thank you, Rebecca. And Mayanna, you got off easy, Mayanna. That's it. All right, that brings us to our resolutions. First up, we have a resolution for the local community development concerning the Community Development Block Grant, the CDBG, local innovation proposal to be submitted to the Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development for the Appalachian Highlands Community Dental Center Expansion Project. The project proposal will include the following activities. Funds will be used to pay a portion of equipment and construction costs to build and equip 5 additional operatories. This project will enable the clinic to double patient capacity. Phase 2 would provide training space required to support other residents and current equipment in remaining ops, which will be moved. We heard a lot about this earlier, and in the public hearings, we heard a lot of positive feedback. Council, what's your pleasure?
Make the motion that we move forward with this.
Motion by Vice Mayor Quetch to adopt this resolution. Do I have a second?
I'll second. Both.
You can do it.
Who wants it?
I'll second.
All right, second by Mr. Anderson. All right. Council, any discussion?
It's just such an amazing situation.
It
There,
is.
there aren't enough good things to be said.
Sure. All I
I'm
get
very
is
pleased that we can support.
Absolutely, and all I get is positive feedback. I actually see the prescriptions come through on my side. So servicing a lot of people, and it's just very exciting to have such a wonderful facility in our town, our little lovely town. Council, anything else we'd like to say?
Ms. Triplett, does council need to do anything other than adopt this resolution? Do you need any other signatory authority?
I think that's all.
Okay.
I just want to say I work in the restaurant business, and there's a lot of people that don't have insurance. And Scott Miller's group and Jan Hurt, a lot of people don't realize, but I know at my job at the tavern, they've helped out several people, and they've helped other restaurants as well too. So I just want to say it's a great thing that you all are doing, Jan, and I'm backing you all 100%.
Very pleased to have the opportunity to help them.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, Council, if there's no other discussion, Kim, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Owens?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Ms. Pillion?
Aye.
Ms. Quetch?
Aye.
And Mayor Webb.
Aye. Our pleasure. All right. Second up, we have a resolution of the council for the town of Abingdon supporting the Virginia American 250 Commission. Mr. Cochran, got anything you'd like to say about this?
Yes, so we were contacted last week and a half ago, and the state is putting on this Virginia 250 for our 250th anniversary, and we were contacted basically asking if we would support this. So if we support this, then they're going to be eligible to receive different grant fundings and whatnot coming from the different organizations. It won't require a lot of staff time. This is really us. If we pass this, then is the person here?
Yes, Ms. Keys.
Ms. Keys. Okay, I only saw her by email, so I didn't have a picture of her face. So, yes, Ms. Keys back there. So then she'll actually be able to help bring this along. But it's mainly because you only turn 250 once. So,
That's it.
we're just trying to support that so we can help her get her things done. So.
Sure. Martha, did you have anything you'd like to say, or?
Not really.
Okay.
You got to do this before anything else can happen.
Sure. So that's it in a nutshell then.
Yeah.
All right, excellent. Okay. Council, all that being said, what's your pleasure?
I'll make a motion to pass that resolution.
Motion by Mr. Owens to pass the resolution. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Mayor Quetch. Any discussion, council? Hearing none, Kim, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Owens?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Ms. Pillion?
Aye.
Ms. Quetch?
Aye.
And Mayor Webb.
Aye. Thank you. All right, that brings us to first readings of ordinances. First up, we have a consideration of proposed comprehensive updates to town zoning and subdivision ordinance. As we said earlier, council, we're not fully adopting this. It'll have to go to second reading. So Cam, procedurally, what do we need to do?
Shall the proposal be rejected?
You had to tell me that. I was going to say that. So I have these magical words I have to say on first readings of ordinances, and it's shall the proposal be rejected. And as long as I hear nothing, it moves on to second reading, so we're good to go. All right, don't have any second readings of ordinances tonight. We do have something that came up rather suddenly, and we're excited about it. It's a consideration of a bid consideration of appropriation of $328,771 to purchase a 2023 Mack trash truck. Mr. Cochran.
Yes, so this was ordered, 18 months, I believe, is the amount we were told when it was ordered. It was about 18 months out, and then miraculously it came in about a year early. Steve, do you have any information you want to feed in on that? But much earlier than we expected.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
everything was in the parade, though.
That's it.
It's brand new.
Thank you. If you recall, when we did the budget preparation for this year, we actually had discussions about the trash truck and the critical need for a new one. But as Mr. Cochran alluded to, we were originally told the lead time was going to be as much as 18 to 24 months, and so we didn't include it in this year's budget because we felt it would probably be in the 2024 budget. This is one of the rare occasions where the supply chain opened up, as you said, miraculously. We have it. It's beautiful. It's clean. It's as clean as it's ever going to be. But it did come in at a price of $328,771. We did look at some options to finance it. We really didn't feel like it was appropriate right now to encumber the town with additional debt, particularly when we had some general fund funds available to cover the cost of that. And because of some foresight by the Finance Committee last month, we've had some budget savings this first quarter. Not the kind of budget savings you really want. It's really more for the inability to fill all of our positions. But that budget savings was moved over to the council contingency line. And so really there's no bottom line impact. You're not appropriating more money than was already appropriated for the total budget. It's just that we're shifting it around from some budget savings. So that's really what, again, zero impact to the bottom line of the budget. It's just the council, full transparency, acknowledging the appropriation of this amount of money for that purpose.
And from a statutory perspective, since it doesn't change the budget 1% or more, then the budget doesn't have to be amended specifically.
Right.
Right.
And the truck is paid for.
Yeah.
I think it sounds like it just worked out.
That's
Yeah,
it.
it did.
Perfect timing, right? That's it.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you,
Any
Steve.
other questions?
Appreciate that.
Sure.
Any questions, Council?
Thank you.
All right. All right, so basically, we just need to approve the appropriation of this money for the trash trucks to formally make it.
I'll make that motion.
All right, motion by Vice Mayor Quetch to appropriate the $328,771 to purchase that 2023 Mack trash truck. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Anderson. Any discussion, Council? Hearing none, Kim, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Owens?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Ms. Pillion?
Aye.
Ms. Quetch?
Aye.
And Mayor Webb.
Aye. Very exciting to get that truck so quickly, and glad to have the tools to give Public Works to do their job well. So,
Yes.
congratulations, Mr. Surratt.
Yeah, they were real excited.
That's it. All right. That brings us to new business. And first up, we've got a presentation of the 2021-22 financial audit for the town of Abingdon. Mr. Jordan Owens from Brown, Edwards and Company. Where are you, Jordan? And Steve, if you want to come up and kind of send this out. Square it away for us.
Thank you again. As you indicated, Jordan Owens from Brown Edwards, which is our independent auditor from Bristol. They've approached this, as they always have, with the utmost professionalism. The staff works very, very well with Brown Edwards and their staff as they've audited our financials. I would like to give a little bit of a shout out to Rotifer and Moss, who does our final year-end close, and they do a lot of the heavy lifting that Brown Edwards comes in and audits. But we enjoyed working with them, and he's here to give a brief presentation, but please ask as many questions as you need.
All right, Jordan, you've got 30 seconds. Give us some down and dirty. I'm teasing.
I can make that. It's not a problem.
I'm teasing.
I'm Jordan Owens. I'm a senior audit manager with Brown Edwards and Company. We do the independent audit, like Steve said, and just kind of like Steve, I'd also like to extend my gratitude to Steve and Tammy and their teams for the help. An audit's not an easy process, but they made it a pleasure. So appreciate you all giving me the opportunity. The first document that we're going to go over is just the annual financial report. So this is the big document that's in front of you, and that's really what you've hired us to do. So the first page we'll flip to will be the audit opinion. So that's going to be page 1 right here. And they've restructured this a little bit this year, so it's going to look a little bit different than what you're probably used to, but it's kind of a simplification. So now the audit opinion, which is what you're paying for, is right up at the top of the audit report. They just get straight to it. So for the opinion, it says the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of the governmental activities, business type activities, each major fund, and the aggregate remaining fund information for the town as of June 30, 2022. So this is a clean opinion. It's an unmodified opinion. That's as good as it gets in terms of an audit opinion. And the one other item I wanted to kind of call your attention to for this audit report this year is down at the bottom of page 1, you'll see a paragraph for a change in accounting principle. This is just the implementation of a new GASB standard, and it's GASB 87, and it's having to do with leases. So one of the things that will be different with the financial statements this year is you'll see on the full accrual statements on Exhibit 1 and Exhibit 2, there's some new lease assets and liabilities, and we'll kind of go over that when we get to it. So the first page we'll flip to here will just be page 5 on Exhibit 1. And this is really just me kind of highlighting where these new lease numbers are going to kind of come into play at. And about down at the bottom of the assets, you'll see a right-of-use asset, and it references a Note 8. Those are those lease assets that are new for June 30, 22. It's not anything new with the town. It's your equipment leases with copiers, with vehicles. It's just new that they're being presented on this statement. And there's also a corresponding liability about 2/3 of the way down. There will be lease liabilities, and those are embedded inside of the due within 1 year, and then the other long-term liabilities, they get broken out in a footnote later on. But I just kind of wanted to highlight that as one of the changes for fiscal year 22. The next page we'll kind of jump to is actually just going to be page 7, and this is Exhibit 3. And this is just one item that people like to take a look at oftentimes just to see what the fund balance is doing for the town. And you can see in the first column is your general fund, and at the bottom you have like an unassigned fund balance of $8.5 million. So that number is an increase of about $1 million from last year. So that's a good trend in the right direction, and that's just a highlight I kind of wanted to point out. The next item that we'll kind of go over is just going to be on page 23. And this is your summary of significant accounting policies footnote. Just kind of gives the reader of the financial statements some information about the town's accounting policies. And this at the bottom is going to talk about the adoption of that lease standard. It's going to go over, how to define what a right-of-use asset and a lease liability is. It talks about how the town determines the rates that are used to calculate those lease liabilities, defines what the terms are, and then what they're going to do if there are changes in those leases. And that's really the big theme. I'll talk a lot about leases because that's the big change in the financial statements this year. A lot of the rest of this Note 1 is the same as what you've read in the past. There wasn't any other significant changes to the significant accounting policies. So the next page we'll flip to is just going to be page 29. And this is going to be that capital asset footnote. So Note 8 is a capital asset footnote. Note 9 is a debt footnote. And this is where that lease information really gets detailed out if you want to see what the beginning balance was, what was added to it during fiscal year 22, what was decreased. So at the bottom of page 29, you can see we had to restate the beginning balance for the right-of-use lease assets for $357,000. There were some changes during the year. And then at June 30, 22, the net number, net of the amortization of those lease assets, is $265,000. And then there will be a corresponding liability for a similar amount. They get reduced at a different amount anyways, but you can see those lease liabilities on page 31. And that ending lease liability for governmental activities is $251,000, so it's pretty comparable to that asset. So not a lot of change, big picture, to your Exhibit 1. You have an asset and a liability for similar amounts. So the next item that I kind of wanted to talk about a little bit is on page 73. And I just like to kind of go over this one. This is a really big compliance schedule. It's called the Schedule of Expenditures of Federal Awards. So this schedule really details out what the town spent in federal grant money for fiscal year 22. and that number totaled up to $2.2 million. That's an increase of about $1 million from last year, and that's really just driven by the ARPA money. So if you look down at the bottom, there's a big $1.9 million. That's the ARPA grant money that came through, and the town is still working through spending that funds. And that really drives the single audit, which is kind of the grant audit. And that's the next section that we're going to talk about, and that'll be on page 95. That's the compliance section. There's 2 compliance reports in the back of the audit. There's a internal control over financial reporting report, and then there's another auditor's report on compliance for each major program. So this first report is required by government auditing standards, and we don't really have anything to report over internal control over financial reporting. If there was a significant control issue, it would be reported inside of here. We did have one compliance finding that we'll detail out a little bit later. But then on this next page, that's the internal control over compliance report that's really driven by your grant audit. So we audited the ARPA funds this year, and we didn't have any findings necessarily over that, but we do kind of recommend that you all update some procurement policies in there. And I think that's in the works, but it's been disrupted by some of the turnover in town personnel. So that was repeated from last year, actually. And then the last item that I want to talk about on the financial statements is really going to be on page 101. And 101 is your schedule of findings and question costs. And if you're ever looking at another not-for-profit or another governmental entity, this is a good Cliff Notes summary. And they're not in every single audit, but if you have a single audit, a federal grant audit, there's going to always be this schedule of findings and question costs. But it goes over a lot of the items that I just highlighted, that there was an unmodified opinion, there were no significant deficiencies or instances of noncompliance that were material to the financial statements. It details out what grant that we audited, which was the ARPA grant. The Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Fund is the technical name. And then it goes through findings related to the financial statement audit. We didn't have any of those. There was one Commonwealth of Virginia finding due to the Weldon Cooper report. We had trouble tying some information out there. Not a real big deal, but it was something that we kind of have to put in the report because compliance is pretty black and white, but it's not really gonna raise any red flags or anything like that. The Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Fund is on page 102, and that is that procurement item that I was talking about. It wasn't a problem with the ARPA fund itself. It's really just saying that the town could probably update some of their procurement policies to be in compliance with the uniform grant guidance. So the CDBG funds that were up there, that's going to be another federal program for the town. If you're having to put something out to bid for a federal grant program, you want to just make sure that those procurement policies are updated with the uniform guidance. And the rest of the report goes over prior audit findings, and we're happy to report there's no repeats from that aside from those procurement items. And that's really the audit of the financial statements. I got one other report that we'll go over real briefly, and that is just this, the stapled copy. It's the required communication with those charged with governance. This is pretty similar to the prior year. It goes over significant audit matters. It likes to go over what the significant accounting estimates are. So when you're looking at the financial statements and you wonder, what is some of the squishier numbers in there that are harder to audit, it's going to be the numbers that are subject to estimates. So this letter details out what those estimates are: capital assets, other post-employment benefits, the allowance for doubtful accounts, the pension liability. These are all estimates that actuaries help you with, or the town has made an estimate on itself, so we just like to highlight those. We didn't have any issues with them. We're just kind of pointing them out to say, these are the estimates. Page 2 of this document goes over difficulties encountered in performing the audit, disagreements with management, and corrected and uncorrected misstatements. And we didn't necessarily have anything to report on that front, so that was all good. And that's everything for this required communication with those charged with governance. So I'll be happy to answer any questions if anybody has any. Went over my 30-second time on
That was fast.
Covered a lot of
You did a great
information.
job. You did a
Good
great job.
That was fast.
I'm impressed.
All right, council, what questions do we have? I know that was a lot to digest very quickly, but the gist of it is we're in a good financial place, we have good financial policies, and there were no deficiencies.
Yes,
Is that kind of
the
what I'm
numbers that
hearing?
the town provided to us did not get adjusted. We didn't increase asset liabilities. We didn't change the bottom line on anything. So.
Sure. Steve, is there anything you'd like to add?
Just one thing, as Jordan alluded to, the major accounting change was GASB 87. And in working with the Finance Committee, I advised y'all earlier that was one of the reasons why we went with debt book in order to capture all of those leases, which is a challenge in and of itself. But I think Jordan will appreciate it. You've had a number of other municipalities that use that thing. The auditors really use that a lot at the end. And just kind of to anticipate the next major accounting change is going to be GASB 96, I guess, next year, which is going to be for the subscriber-based information agreements. And so it's a very similar process that we had to go through with the leases this year. So next year there's going to be another accounting change as well.
I like to keep things fresh.
Keep them in business. You can't take all the GASB findings, y'all are questioned for them, but some of these things that they think are supposed to simplify things, not hardly.
This report only gets bigger. It'll never shrink itself.
Never shrink, that's it.
If anybody does have any questions, I'll be happy to take them.
Sure. Council? Anything? I'm sure we'll come up with something at some point in time, but we'll pass that along, all right? Thank you so much, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Next up, we have a presentation regarding a wing mural photo opportunity. Miss Jan Hurt. This is the Jan Hurt show
It
today.
is
What are you
today.
talking about, huh?
The talkers get to talk. I've provided you all with some pictures of the sort of thing I'm proposing that I've taken out of the country and within the country, and I think Mike Owens is a star of one of those pictures. Just in terms of making more fun things in Abingdon, more photo opportunities, it's the sort of thing I enjoy when I travel, and people I've talked to enjoy it also. So I've been looking for a place where we could do that sort of thing. And the pictures provided, since you all can't see, are of angel wings. And interesting to see me standing with angel wings. But it happens. So I was looking for a place to do angel wings in Abingdon, and really about the only main traffic place that I could come up with is where the big mural is anyway. Toward the north end of that, there's a large blank space, which would be a safe place for these pictures to be taken, and is a large blank space. If you have a large blank space, I want to put something on it. So what I propose to do, if the council is interested, is I would like adult-size wings and then something middle, and then tiny, to provide that photo opportunity for families visiting. I would fund the artist to paint that, and if you all are in agreement with it, what we would do is I would pick the artist, and then we would come back to you with her or his proposal of what we're going to do. I'm also wanting to tie Abingdon into it some way to get that word up there, so that whenever anybody takes a picture, they take a picture of Abingdon too. So that would probably be part of the design.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's about it.
That's very, very, very easy. So council, what questions do we have for her? I think it's a great idea personally.
I think it is too.
Anything we can do to accentuate the artistic side of Abingdon, we need to do, in my opinion. And I see somebody else in the crowd there who's always telling me that we need to beautify Abingdon as much as possible. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, do we have any kind of ownership to that space on the side of that building?
You all have the mural, I have no clue.
All right, so I know we've got the mural and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
But we probably need to double check and see what type of red tape we need to cross to be able to do that in a permanent sort of fashion. But I love your idea, Jan. I mean, it would be really cool, and I'm sure you're thinking the same thing, but to hashtag it somehow so people could share these photos on social media and get, Abingdon out there. You never know where those pictures will end up, and
Yeah.
I'm sure it would be widespread, so. What do we need to do procedurally, Cam, to,
I think at the moment, all Ms. Hurd is asking for is whether there's a consensus about looking into it
Okay.
at the moment.
okay,
Mhm.
all right,
I'm in
Counsel?
favor of looking into it, yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's fun.
Oh, good?
So my question is, who's gonna look into it?
Is
So-
this in O&H?
We'll have town staff look into the legal side of it.
Is it O&H?
Do you have say if there's an issue with that area that,
But Jan, we'll have to think about where that location is and point you in the right direction. Is it O&H?
There's a picture of
No.
it
It is entrance
that I
corridor.
sent.
it is interest corridor,
So
but
that would be planning commission.
right, it's not in O&H, so it'd be in the planning commission. No?
Cam.
Well, let us research that. I think what you're asking for, though, is we've got 5 yeses. So we certainly are supportive of this. I think it's a great idea. But let us do the research on the back end as to how we need to approach it and how we can achieve this while following all of our guidelines.
Okay.
Is that the right answer?
So in the meantime, I will start talking to artists.
Sure.
And make a decision who I think would be the best. And certainly the weather's not gonna cooperate, so it's gonna give whoever some time to develop a design.
Okay.
And as soon as we get a design, then I'll come back to Kim and get on
Sure. Sure.
the agenda.
Absolutely. Sounds great.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Jan.
Thank you, Dan.
All right, up next, we've got a consideration of a deed of dedication of 1.8 acres of open space land, parcel number 105A35. This deed is necessary to obtain grant funds from Virginia Outdoor Foundation's Preservation Trust Fund Public Access Program for the consideration of certain portions of the bicycle pump track. Mike, it's got you listed, Mr. Cochran. Got too many mics in the room. What do we need to do here? Just adopt it as,
I think we've got another kind of chicken and the egg situation. The VOF wants to approve what you say is okay before they will sign it.
Okay.
So I think I'd ask for a motion allowing the town manager and I to work up the final documents. and
Execute the
have
agreement. Okay.
signature-
Okay.
Signatory authority
All right.
on the deed
Oh.
and the grant documents.
Okay. So council, we heard all of this earlier, and
Yes.
obviously it's a great idea. So I'm seeing that Mr. Anderson wants to make a motion to give the town manager and town attorney the authority to go ahead and
Yes, I would.
work through this. Do I have a second, council?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Pillion. Any discussion?
And by that, you mean sign the grant documents and the deed and any applicable documents.
Sounds very,
Yes.
very,
Yes.
very, yes, that's exactly
Yes.
what they meant,
That's
Cam.
what I
Did you get all that, Kim?
Yes, sir.
We'll make it legal now. All right. Hearing no discussion, Kim, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Owens?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Ms. Pillion?
Aye.
Ms. Quetch?
Aye.
And Mayor Webb.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Next, we have a presentation of sanitary sewer evaluation survey, an SSES, conducted for the town of Abingdon through a Virginia Department of Environmental Quality SSES pilot program, the Lane Group. We don't get to see you guys very often. Mike, are you going to introduce us
Yep,
here?
I'll introduce you, Mr. Mayor, Council. We've been being engaged with the Lane Group for about a year now. They've been doing some sanitary sewer evaluation study for our collection systems, and we just wanted them to come in and give you guys an update on where the system stands
Sure.
and where we're at and where we're moving forward to.
Okay.
Without further ado, Matt Lane with the Lane Group.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you all very much. What an agenda. You know,
Right?
and now as a reward for sitting through all that, we're going to talk about sewer. Right? So, I'll try to make it as quick as I can and hopefully not dwell on too much. Feel free to use that little red button if you'd like to, and I'll shut up. My name is Matthew Lane. This is Mark Osborne. We're both engineers out of our Abingdon office. We are your local engineering group. We have an office right here on Valley Street in Abingdon, and we are excited to be part of this project, and we're excited to be working for the town. So without further ado, we'll get started. What about the importance of sanitary sewer? Sewer systems are out of sight and out of mind unless something goes wrong, right? We really don't think about what happens when we flush the toilet or use the sink or the shower, but we do expect it to go away. The operation and maintenance of public sewer systems and infrastructure is also one of the most costly and challenging things facing local governments in Southwest Virginia. Now, operating and maintaining sewer systems is expensive for just about any locality, but here in Southwest Virginia, we're facing some unique challenges that make it even more costly for us. We don't have a really dense population. We don't have a growing customer base to pay the bills. And we've got a lot of old infrastructure, and that gets very expensive to maintain. Sanitary sewer service, though, is one of, if not the most important services provided by any municipality. It is paramount to public health and welfare. We all know that, right? It is necessary for residential, commercial, and industrial growth. You cannot grow as a town, as a locality, without sanitary sewer. And it's also paramount to protection of the environment, our ecosystem, and our waterways. And this is the picture I threw up there is of Wolf Creek, and it actually runs right through the treatment plant property. So sewer systems, like any infrastructure, age. And as they age, like any infrastructure, they begin to deteriorate. And as they deteriorate, some bad things start to happen. A sewer system is really supposed to be a closed system. You don't want anything but sewer in the sewer system. So when it's originally built, it's a pretty tight system. As it starts to deteriorate, it starts to let other things in. Okay? Root intrusion, that's a picture of roots that begin to grow into the pipe, and we can tell what a problem with sewer backup that might create. Low points in the lines settle, they have bellies in them. Of course, that decreases the capacity of the lines quite a bit. We have infiltration. You'll hear me say that several times. Staff reminded me not to talk in technical terms, so I'll try to avoid doing that. But groundwater entering the sewer system is what infiltration is. That's just regular groundwater that's able to get into the system. And inflow is surface water that gets into the system through drop inlets and that kind of thing when it rains. The result of all these things getting into our sewer system is a decreased capacity of the system, which can and often does result in sewer system backups and overflows. Sewer overflows and accordingly have to be reported to the Department of Environmental Quality, and that can result in notices of violation, consent orders, and if not corrected, fines and penalties. So it gets to be a pretty serious situation if we don't take care of our sewer infrastructure.
I'll make a note right quick. The pictures that you all are seeing are actually of Abingdon's system. These aren't just random pictures thrown into the slides.
Okay, so here's a graph that we'll talk about in just a minute. But before we go any further, let me just say that Abingdon is not in a unique situation. Everybody in Southwest Virginia is in the same boat. Virtually every system, not all of them, but virtually all of them, are getting older. They're experiencing a lot of problems. So you're not in this boat alone. We're doing a Southwest Virginia comprehensive sewer study right now, looking at all the systems in the whole region. And again, Abingdon is right in the middle. But many areas of the Abingdon system have aged well past their intended service life. Again, as with anything you buy, anything you construct, it has a service life. Once it gets past that service life, bad things start to happen. A significant amount of groundwater and surface water runoff is now entering our system, the I&I that we talked about. If you look at the chart, what we've got, I think it makes a pretty good point. The orange shaded area, and this is information from last year, is the gallons that was treated at the wastewater treatment plant. The area that's shaded in green is the water that was billed during that same time period. So as you can see, we're treating, even in dry periods, you remember how wet it was at the first of last year. You see how probably 80% of the sewage and water that was treated at the plant was from outside sources, okay? So we can begin to see what a significant problem that we've got, especially in wet weather times. This increases the likelihood of sewer backups and overflows, again, because now we're taking up the capacity in our sewer lines with all this rainwater and groundwater. And it increases the cost associated with conveyance and treatment. Our friends at Woodard and Kern will tell us that they have to treat a gallon of water that comes through the sewer system just as it was a gallon of sewage, okay? So, and we've got to get it there. So we've got pump cost, we've got treatment cost. All these things are increased costs for the town. All right, so that's kind of the situation, and what are we doing about it? Because your staff have been very forward-thinking about how do we start to address this situation. Again, a lot of folks continue to kick the can on down the road. Abingdon has really taken a proactive stance when it comes to doing the sewer system evaluation and trying to figure out how do we start getting a handle on this situation. So in 2021, we were awarded funding from the Department of Environmental Quality for completion of a study to evaluate 4 areas within the town's system. CHA completed that study, and it identified over $9 million in proposed rehabilitation work just in those 4 areas. Okay? The DEQ, in turn, funded the Phase 1 work at a cost of $3.3 million, 75% grant. So $2.5 million of the $3.3 million that we're calling Phase 1 was given to the town in the form of loan forgiveness or debt forgiveness or grant from the DEQ. And I'll just pause for a minute and tell you, the DEQ is an amazing partner for us. Alan Newman, who is working there now as our loan person, is really an advocate for the town when it comes to helping us figure out how we can get funding to help solve our problems. A lot of people think the DEQ is just about, regulatory and beating you with a stick and all that kind of stuff, but they really do care, and they really do try to help us find the funding that we need, and they've done that here. The town hired us, thank you very much, to complete the Phase 1 project. And it included further evaluation of the system by flow monitoring, smoke testing, visually inspecting manholes, and videoing the sewer lines. Sounds like interesting work, doesn't it? You have to be an engineer to get up in the morning and look forward to that, but we do. It is a lot of fun, and it enables us to make sure that we're spending the money that we've got wisely. Rehabilitating these systems is very expensive, so we want to make sure that we're rehabilitating them the right way, as economically feasibly as we can, and we think we've more than done our due diligence here. Also, as an aside, all the data that we're collecting now is being inserted into the town's GIS system. So we're really helping to build up the database on the GIS system. And unlike a report that you'd put up on the shelf somewhere, this will be in the GIS system from now on. Okay, so we're really building the platform to do this kind of work going forward. So here are the areas that we evaluated. White's Mill, Court Street, Stone Mill, Green Springs, Jeb Stewart, that's the overall sewer system, and the shaded areas are the ones that we have evaluated for the work that we're doing now. So what did we do? And I'll bust through this. We did flow monitoring. One of the things we want to do is make sure that we're getting the biggest bang for our buck. So we inserted flow monitors in several of the areas of the system that measured the actual flow. Areas with larger amount of flow during rain events are the ones that we need to be focusing on, right? This is an example of a chart that we did in one of our flow monitors at White's Mill in Walden. The blue lines are flow from the meter. The yellow lines are rainfall. And you see, when we started, it was relatively dry, late July, about 100 gallons a minute. And then we went through quite a wet period of time, and see how the flows pop up? I mean, when it first rains, they shoot way up. And that's a sign that we've got a lot of inflow coming into the system from runoff. And then it leveled out, but higher than it was before, and that's an indicator that we've still got a lot of infiltration or groundwater getting into the system. So this was a problem area that we looked at further. Another chart showing the same thing. And again, if you're doing 400 gallons a minute or 300 gallons a minute during dry periods, and then you shoot up to 1,000 or 1,100 during wet periods, that's a significant amount of flow that's going through the system. This is an example of an area we looked at that we really would be a lower priority. You see, we have some pretty steep spikes when it rains, but it falls right back down. So that's indicative of roof drains or inlets that we can potentially find and eliminate very quickly. Then we did smoke testing, and literally with smoke testing, we just blew smoke. You blow smoke into the sewer lines, and that smoke follows the lines, and where there's a defect, a bad joint, crack in the pipe, a connection to a roof drain or a drop inlet, the smoke will come up. It's pretty simple. I've been around for a long time, but it's a very good way to find defects in the system, and we did that in all these areas. Just a few pictures to show you some examples. This is a clean out, the first one in the middle of a parking lot. The lid was missing. Smoke's pouring out of it, and where do you think the water goes when it rains? It goes right in that broken clean out, right? The middle picture is roof gutters. We found that if you've got smoke coming out of your roof gutters, the rain water that runs down the roof when it's raining ends up in our sewer system, and we've got several like that.
I just want to clarify, that's not any of our house.
That's
right
what
there. I just want to make that known.
I tried to not, I propped it down. But
I'm teasing.
thank you. I'm glad that was. And then the other picture is a manhole. You see the smoke coming out around the manhole. That means that the manhole has some defects that would allow groundwater to get into it when the groundwater table is high. So again, all these were documented on the GIS system, and here's a neat little video we wanted to show you. When we're out there, we're using the Fulcrum app to document all this, to take the videos and the pictures. This is right off of Valley Street, Town Creek.
Yeah.
And it's typically never a good thing to have smoke.
Is that around Halloween?
It does look like dry ice. Yeah. Yeah. But obviously, this is a problem because the sewer line is right in the bank of the stream. It is smoking heavily, which means there's quite a few defects there. So what happens when it rains and the stream gets up? We're carrying that to the treatment plant for Chris to treat.
Just to clarify on that, that's our line and not this homeowner's line.
Yes.
Yes.
Smoke testing, again, this is an example of what we're doing. Everything was documented, points were located, and we're proud of that, so I've said it 3 or 4 times. The next thing we did was CCTV, or closed caption television of the lines. We actually send a camera up through the lines, and this is really a great way for us to tell exactly what's going on inside those lines. So everywhere you see a little yellow star there was a line that we were able to camera. Make this really quick. This is a good line. This is what a line is supposed to look like. The joints are tight. The lateral connections are good. There's no water getting in from anywhere else. This line is smooth and straight. So that's a good looking sewer line for those of you who don't know, right?
You can imagine how it goes.
I'm going to take your word on that one.
It's a good looking line, I'm telling you. This, not so much. This is an example of it's an old concrete line, just to help you see it. At one time or another, there was evidently a blockage or a defect or something in there. Repair was made by cutting the pipe open and placing PVC sections over top of it and covering it back up. Now, that gob of stuff there, that's what happens when repairs aren't made properly. That's a good place for things to collect and to start building up. So what happens over time is you get all this build up, and before you know it, you've got sewer backing up into the lines, into people's houses, into businesses. It's not a good situation. A couple other examples, the one on the left, that's a lateral connection that was made to the main line, and that is mud. I'm going to say it's mud that's getting in from around the pipe because it wasn't properly connected to the main line. And if all that mud stuff can get in there, then so can water. And the mud, of course, is another contributor to clogging it up. On the right is an old concrete line that's installed, and you can see it's starting to fall apart, especially at the joints. All right, this is a section of terracotta line that we videoed. It's an old terracotta line. Any terracotta line is old. See, it's not straight. It kind of turns. That's not a good thing. And here's a joint. Most of the joints in this particular line look like this. So obviously, when groundwater table's up, when it's raining, where does all that go? See, sewer lines, because of what they are installed in low-lying areas, so everything can drain to them. Well, what else is in low-lying areas? The water table's higher. All the water, when it rains, goes to those same areas. And when it rains, or when the groundwater table is high, a lot of times our sewer lines can act like a big French drain and just collects all that water, especially if our pipes are in that kind of shape. This is a section of concrete line, not reinforced concrete. Again, speaking to the age of it, any of the newer concrete line would be reinforced, and there's a whole section of it missing here. It's just deteriorated completely.
Wow. How deep are those lines in the ground?
In Abingdon, you don't have a lot of extremely deep lines. In town where we were looking, probably 4, 5, 6 feet.
Just curious. Did y'all put a cone over top of that?
No, but we didn't mark it. We know where it is.
That's good.
And this is one more section. I won't show any more videos, I promise. But this is another section of another concrete line, and you can see how, again, it has deteriorated bad. That's a bunch of spalling. The joints are basically non-existent. And there's several areas where there is no pipe at all.
So what do they build this out of now to make it last? Are there materials we use now to make it last longer?
Absolutely, PVC. PVC is the go-to. Yep. And ductile iron. Yep. If we're in certain locations, we'll use ductile iron. That's a good material as well.
How big are those lines, like visually? I mean, I know the camera makes it askew, but like, are we talking like this big?
8 inch.
8 inches. Okay.
10 in town is what you're looking at.
So you've done these studies at other places, so what would you say, Abingdon on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being good, where do we stand? Like, you know, are we like right in the middle, bad and good, or are we on the positive side, or just kind of like really bad? What
Well,
would you say?
That's a good question. Like I said, we've been fortunate enough to do this work for a lot of different folks, and I do think you're right in the middle. I mean,
Right in the middle.
we've seen worse.
Gotcha.
And we've seen better.
Gotcha.
But you know, again, you're not in this one. All right. So, what is our Phase 1 project? The one that we're talking to you particularly about tonight. $3.3 million. You see the area here where we're going to be doing most of the work. And again, as you can tell by the unit costs we've got over here, sewer work is expensive. It is a costly venture, so we need to make sure that we're spending the money wisely and getting the biggest bang for our buck. So let's talk about the current projects we've got going on, because again, one area that you are ahead of the curve is the fact that staff has been addressing this issue and moving things forward and going after funding so we can start, addressing our issue. The Phase 1 project that we're talking about in those areas that we just went is a $3.3 million project. It was funding was secured through DEQ for it in the amount of $2.5 million in grant and $828,000 in 0% loan. You just don't get that kind of offer anymore. I mean, that's amazing. And that's the money that we're using to do the project we're working on now. Phase 2, in the same areas that we evaluated, and it has a total project cost of $6.2 million. That funding application was prepared and submitted to DEQ earlier this year. We are very hopeful that we're going to get a good offer from them again for funding on this particular project. By May is when we typically know about that, so that would allow us to start design in July and hopefully get under construction in February of next year. There's a couple other projects that the town has going on. One of us is the Town Creek Interceptor Replacement Project. Remember the video with the smoke coming out of the sewer line? This project would replace that line. It's a $1.9 million project. The town has completed that funding application and has submitted to DEQ for their ARPA program funding. We should know by May how we scored on that. I think it's going to be a really good project for us because Mattern and Craig has already got it designed. It's shovel ready, as they say. So I think that'll help us score high. I'm very hopeful about obtaining some funding for that. And then the Exit 19 Force Main Relocation Project, again, Mattern and Craig has already designed that. It's on the shelf. It's ready to be bid. The town has prepared those funding applications with Mattern and Craig, and hopefully we'll hear about that one in May as well. So to bring all this to a head, and then we'll answer any questions that you've got, this process, the process of rehabilitating our sewer system, is extremely important. It's going to be costly, and it's going to take a long time. This is a multi-year long process. We're talking, decades to do what we need to do here. So how do we move forward? We need to continue the assessment of the town's sewer system. We really looked at those 4 areas closely. We know what's there. We know what needs to be rehabilitated. In order to do that for the other areas in the system, we need to do a similar assessment. So we need to budget for continuing to do these SSES surveys or evaluations of the sewer system. And there is money out there that we can help you find to fund those as well. We want to continue to utilize the GIS for asset management and data tracking. That was very important to all the guys and gals on staff, is that we do that, and we want to continue to do that. We can even create modules that can be used, town staff or other consultants that go out and do the work. They can download the information. It goes right to the GIS system. The more information we got, the better. We need to establish and implement an asset management plan. Again, that's something that we are happy to help with either through the infrastructure committee or workshops with the town. We're happy to assist with that. And we need to develop a capital improvements list, establish an annual budget to complete projects over a 5 or 10 year period, look at the larger projects that we can get funding for, and determine how we go about getting funding to design and build those projects, and then look at the smaller projects that we might want to get Woodard and Curran to take a look at for us. A lot of the things we found were clean-out lids, like I showed you before, that were off. And, we'll find, sometimes we'll run a camera through a line and we'll find a spot that can be fixed quickly. There's no need to wait on a big project to do that. We just get in there and get it fixed, right?
And their staff will be able probably to do some of that, right? Woodard and Kern.
I would think so. Yes. All right. And you didn't even have to hit the red button, sir. So, that concludes my presentation. Again, we've had a blast working with everybody. We're very happy to be part of this project, and we'll answer any questions you got.
Is this something that is an ongoing project? I mean, is this something that, I know that we're going to update everything right now, hopefully, but is this something that we need to look at continually, or will this fix it for a period of time and then we'll revisit it in 10 years or 15 years? Or?
No, it'll need to be a continual process. Yeah, typically.
It's a perpetual. By the time that you get done with the last one,
back
Go
at the
back to the
beginning?
first one,
Okay.
yeah.
I thought that might be the case, but I just wanted to clarify.
Now, do we have all the reports before you start phase 2 from CHA? Do you have everything you need? They did some,
We're waiting on,
okay.
And we feel pretty favorable about getting the funding situated for that 6.23 million. Feel
We-
pretty good about that?
we do.
I mean, I know it's hard to predict, but
I am 100% confident that we will get funding for that. What I'm not 100% confident is what that funding offer will look like. In other words, how much loan forgiveness will there be?
Sure.
And how much low interest loan. But
Sure.
I'm almost positive that we should get a funding offer from DEQ to handle that.
percentage-wise, you know, you guys did a great job showing us all those videos and things. Percentage-wise, how much of our complete system was that you all studied?
I'd say 25% to 30%.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
You know, I know Donna and I were on council at the time, but back 3 or 4 years ago, it was brought to our attention that, you know, we had some deficiencies and things that needed to be looked at and so on and so forth. And we got pretty aggressive about how we were going to approach it, and that's kind of why we are where we are
That's
today.
great. Yeah.
And Mike Surratt has done a great job, and Kevin of getting all this stuff lined up for us. And we feel like that we're in a much better place. Is that safe to say, Donna? I
The
feel much
key
more
is being
confident.
proactive.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because that stuff is not gonna fix itself. I mean, it gets worse as time goes on, and it gets more expensive too.
Sure,
I mean, just
sure.
more expensive to do anything.
Sure. Well, I personally appreciate what you guys have done. I think y'all have done a great job of studying this stuff. Obviously, you learned a great deal. We learned a great deal. Maybe more than we wanted to know.
Infrastructure, we've already got to see this.
Yeah,
She's had to sit through 2 or 3.
So,
That's
but
Well, I'm very impressed, and I appreciate what y'all are doing.
it. Thank you all very much.
I'm sure that Mr. Craig is watching this video and very appreciative that you guys have gotten to this point, so I'll say that out loud for
Yeah,
him.
that's it. That's true.
Yes.
That's true. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Well, thank y'all so much.
Thank
All right,
you.
so we should start design on that work, and hopefully here by summer, we'll have a project under construction.
that's great.
Fantastic.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank y'all again. All right. And that brings us to another exciting report. This is going to be the wastewater operations report. Mr. Sullivan and Woodard and Corinne, if you guys want to come up, and Chris and Mike, and just kind of give us the down and dirty.
Absolutely.
Pun intended.
Yeah, I don't have any exciting videos like Matthew brought, so we'll be quick. It's a
I
little
will
long
add
night.
that Dwayne and I took our little tour out.
Yes.
I'm sorry?
Yes, we took a little tour
We
out.
took a little
Oh.
tour out there.
Oh, good.
Actually, it was a long tour, Chris.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
did a
Chris
great
talks a
job.
lot.
Yeah.
But no, thank you.
Yeah,
there
there's
is.
lots
There
to
certainly
Welcome,
is.
welcome, gentlemen. Welcome.
So yeah, we certainly appreciate the time to talk to you, give you a little bit of an update on what's been going on, and I guess you'd call this wastewater part 2 of tonight's session. I know it's been long, so we'll be quick. I only have a couple slides to go through. So just to recap, we're the contractor to the town. We signed a 5-year deal with you guys. Chris Pritt here is the plant manager. He runs the show at the facility. He's got a very good crew that works for him. We'll go into a little bit of detail. Mike Greenberg, Mike's from the St. Louis area. He was largely responsible for the lead up to us being chosen as a contractor partner to the town. So we feel it's important to spend some time in front of you guys and give you a bit of an update on what's been going on and where the town's funds are being spent. So yeah, January 1st, it's been almost a year. It's certainly been eventful, somewhat exciting, and a bit stressful, I would say, for all of us. But it's a 5-year deal for a comprehensive O&M of the collection system, so all those pipes you saw in Matthew's pictures and videos, that's part of our scope, managing that, the pump stations, the treatment plant, and making sure that the water's treated up to state water quality standards when it goes back out to the Wolf Creek. So when we took over, we had 4 people stay from the town of Abington that worked there previously. We went through a couple presentations with how many people we had in town to support our skeleton crew, really, initially. Chris was there from the start, and now we're up to 15 people. So we had a couple come back who were previously town employees. I believe we've got about 6 of them now, and We've hired 8. So we're at where we thought we should be. We did hire an intern recently. I think it's a couple of months that she'll be on board with us. But 14 to 15 is where we thought we need to be. We may need to add another person for the collection system because there is, as Matthew was discussing, there is quite a bit of work that goes into just keeping that system running every day. So we may need an extra set of hands. We're kind of evaluating that right now. Some of the accomplishments for the last year, regulatory reporting, especially at the beginning when we were relying on records that were collected in 2021, making sure we had everything administratively complete, all the data back then. It was it was a big undertaking for Chris and his team to get all that information together. Now it's more of a routine thing, but we've maintained compliance with all of our permits. We did do a health and safety audit. Our internal team came in and did an audit in January and found about 200 and something items that needed to be addressed, and we're at about 90%. I think it'll be done. Hopefully by the end of the year, we'll be finished with addressing all those items. Some large arc flash, things like that, some smaller exit lighting, and just, everyday health and safety items. Operator's license, Class 1 is the highest license you could have in Virginia. Chris has a Class 1. He's got 3 other people on staff. Is it 3? You, Shannon?
Shannon, Bobby.
So there's 4.
And Doug.
Yeah, 5 Class 1 operators. And then we've got 2 younger new operators that are going to be sitting for their Class 2 exam in the next month or so. So we're really trying to promote, encourage people to get licenses and really advance. Some of these other things we've gone through before, data collection, we converted everything from paper to digital, so it's much easier to manage, put together reports. There's been countless numbers of repairs to different equipment. We did a pretty involved update of the SCADA system. There's about 9 different PLCs, which are small computers for different equipment. We replaced all those. They were outdated, and some of them were to the point where you couldn't even update their programs. They were so old. We've done an evaluation of septage and grease receiving at the facility. That's been a bit of a topic in town that we've heard about. So there's actually a report our engineering group put together. I'll be submitting probably in the next week or so to the town, basically summarizing the facility and capabilities for accepting septage and grease. We've got a preventive predictive maintenance program. Our company's has a previous platform we used. We're in the process of changing to a new one. So all the assets and everything at Wolf Creek will be loaded into there. Maintenance will be updated and regularly tracked in that program, and assisting, as Matthew said, with the I&I and the sewer evaluations and improvements to the collection system and the pump stations. We've made some not huge improvements or changes, but definitely better off than before. Initiatives for next year. The continuation of the SCADA project that wasn't deemed as an emergency, so it'll probably be something the town has to put out to bid for the pump stations. There's some construction equipment that the collections guys use. We'll probably need to upgrade or swap out some of that. The PER, that's a preliminary engineering report, and that's something the Lane Group is doing for the treatment system, the collection system, and the pump stations. So that'll give us a real handle on when you lay out the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years of what the plant's going to look like. You'll have a good basis in that report for improvements needed, capacity expansion, things like that. Communication between Woodard and Curran and the town of Abington, and the improvements there, mainly because there's been so much turnover. I think the council's been steady, but there's been several people in town, Mike included, Mr. Cochran included, that there's been some turnover. So keeping the lines of communication open, and once it's established, everything works fine, but there's, like anything, there's always a little bit of a transition period there. We've got some gate and security systems, UV system at the plant. That's a capital improvement project we're looking at. Grease Hill is a bit of an interesting thing. I had mentioned it, I believe, to Mr. Cochran and Trotman last time we met, and Mr. Surratt. It's a very, very brief. It's a way of taking in grease from restaurants and different types of facilities and turning that grease into a usable product as a fuel. It's quite common, not so much in this area. I think Roanoke and Knoxville are the 2 closest areas where you can dispose of that material. So they're based on the town and some of the surrounding areas, there may be a demand for it. We've got one. Woodard and Curran is in the process of starting one up in Florida. And I think we have another one or two in the works for the next couple of years. So it's just an interesting technology
That's
that
a
we thought would
technology
be.
that would bring the town a revenue
Yeah,
stream.
it would be definitely a
Yeah,
revenue
nice.
stream, something that
That's
we would
nice.
like to talk about further in the future. And then some process things, evaluating a different type of press for dewatering solids. And these are kind of repetitive from the last times I've been here, just some of the things that we want to make sure that we're providing and that we're doing not only for our people to keep good employees, but for the town. We want to provide, you know, the best value that we can to Abington, and all of these things roll into that. And our goals really, these 7 things, they haven't changed from the beginning, and really what this is in our view is helping us maintain a relationship with Abington and developing a long-term partnership as your contractor. That's really what we're here for and what we want to do. So hopefully that was brief enough. I don't want to-
Absolutely.
I know it's getting late, I don't want to take more of your time. Chris has done a phenomenal job bringing on staff. From his experience, 30 years in the business, I couldn't have made a better choice to bring him on board. It's just been tremendous. So hopefully that comes through in the service that you guys receive and the communications you receive from us. And, our doors are certainly open, phones are certainly open, emails. If there are any issues ever, please feel free to contact myself or Chris or even Mike. You can yell at Mike a little bit. He can
I
use
told
it.
you guys a lot of things throughout the process, so if they don't come to fruition, I want to know.
Yeah.
Nice thing about our service is we can fix most things.
That was really it. If you guys have any questions, I'd be more than happy to.
Council, what kind of questions we got for these 3? Well, I had mentioned earlier to you all, and I just want to make sure that I give you guys the recognition, but I've had a couple of employees come to me from the plant and just tell me how impressed they've been and how well they're treated and how satisfied they are with that transition. You know, I know Donna and I were involved kind of from the get-go, and we were very hopeful that this would be a smooth transition and that you guys would really bring a lot to the table, and I think that's coming to
Yes.
fruition, as you just said, and I'm so pleased that the staff is being treated well and feel that they're getting the support they need to grow and contribute at a higher level. So we're very pleased with that, and I think obviously from the past 45 minutes of talking about the sewer, the Lane Group is doing a great job working with you all, and we're just very pleased we're moving in that direction. So thank you all so much.
We appreciate it. Certainly
Brian
appreciate it.
mentioned that
Thank you.
we executed a 5-year agreement.
Yeah.
If we're here for 5 years, we failed. We want to be here a long time.
Yeah.
We appreciate that.
That's what a partnership is.
Exactly.
That's it.
As Matthew said, decades, it's gonna take
Yeah.
That's right, partnership.
That's it.
Well, when you talked about communication, I feel like that I've learned a tremendous amount about sewers over the past year. Things I didn't know. Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, from sitting up here, I suppose I need to know, but not things that I ever knew I needed to know, but things that are important to the function of the town. So I appreciate your all's willingness to inform us about these things.
It's refreshing for me, when you sit on council and you're making difficult decisions. When we started discussing the option of turning this over to a contract company, I really struggled, and I think we all struggled with that process. And so we did a tremendous amount of research, and it's comforting to see that we made the right decision.
We appreciate that.
You know, we recognized we had a problem, and I think we made the right choice on fixing the problems which is ongoing.
Sure.
And we weren't fixing the problems. We were headed for a big bust, so to speak. So hopefully we've headed this off soon enough. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate the feedback.
Absolutely. Council, any other questions? Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Everybody have a Merry Christmas.
Yeah,
Thank
you
you.
too.
Merry Christmas.
All right, that brings us to consideration of dates for council meetings for January through July 2023. We ready for it, Kim?
Yes, sir.
It's a new year. I don't know if I'm ready for it. So looking at the first meeting in January, I think the
We're closed
town
on the
offices are
2nd.
closed on the 2nd, right?
sir.
So I think it would be wise to move that meeting to the 3rd. Does that sound okay, council? To Tuesday the 3rd?
That's great, that's great.
And of course, that'll be a 6:30 meeting. All right. And then, if we look 2 weeks down the road, if I've got this on my calendar correctly, we've got the government officials day in Richmond the 19th.
I think
Is
that's
that right? So it's likely that some of us will be up there on the 19th, I'm guessing. So we may want to look at that following week. How does that sound? The 26th, perhaps? 26th. It's a Thursday for the mid-monthly meeting. I assume council, y'all want to keep that at 2:30? Wayne, you got your calendar out? Is that okay with you, my friend?
Yes, sir.
All right. So 26th, tentatively, will be that mid-monthly meeting. And council, I was just assuming about the week before, but I assume there will be at least a few of us that want to go to Richmond for the local government officials day. Okay. All right. So that brings us to February. The first meeting would be, looks like the 6th of February.
6 and then 2:30.
Okay. Is that okay with everybody? And then looking 2 weeks down the road would put us at the 23rd. I don't think that's a holiday. Does that sound right? And what month are we targeting for a council retreat? I heard that whisper.
Yeah, she's really quiet.
January? if we
January?
can.
Okay.
If we could.
All right. We'll just flip back to January then. How many, and I hate to put everybody on the spot with the local government official day, but how many people think they're gonna be in Richmond that day? Amanda, I assume you're probably gonna wanna go up?
Possibly,
Maybe.
yeah, possibly. We'll see.
She doesn't even wanna see Todd, so.
That's not true.
I'm teasing, I'm teasing. How long of a retreat are we looking for? Just a day retreat?
Yes.
Okay.
We probably do a half day.
What about the very end, like the 31st or the 1st of February, the week before that February meeting?
Good.
Is that okay? What about the 1st of February? It's a Wednesday. Wayne, are you gonna be around Wednesday the 1st?
I will be.
Okay. Why don't we tentatively plan for that day and we can move that one around if we need to? So council retreat, February the 1st.
Will that be an all-day thing?
It's likely that it'll be like at least most of the day, right? Okay. How about you, Cam? You available?
Yes, sir.
All right. All right, so fast forwarding 2 weeks from the 6th of February, we're looking at the 23rd of February. Do we concrete that one? Okay. All right. March the 6th would be the regularly scheduled council meeting?
I might be out of town.
Okay. That's okay if you are. Are you going to be out of town the 7th as well?
Yes.
Okay, that's okay. Let's leave it the 6th then, and we'll see what happens. If we
I may
need
be
to
gone
adjust.
that whole week
Okay,
for spring
yeah.
break.
That's okay. Now, the spring break for the kids is the 11th through the 18th, right, in Washington County?
I think so. I'm going,
That's
Virginia and I are
spring
going
break?
on a
Okay.
trip.
Good deal.
Yes.
No worries, no worries. So like I said, the school spring break is the 11th through the 18th or 19th. So let's look at the 23rd of March for mid-month meeting. That work? Okay. Donna, you're not looking at a calendar all that much.
I don't have to. I'm retired.
Oh, teasing. That brings us to April. It looks like the 3rd of April will be the first Monday of the month at 6:30. And then, what about the 20th of
I'm at
April?
the clerk's conference, sir.
Clerk's conference,
That
okay.
week.
If we move it to that following week, could we do the 26th Wednesday? The 26th, perhaps? Wayne, you around?
I think
All right, you're not looking at a calendar all that much. All right. So then May the 1st will be the Monday. And that would put us at about the 18th, 2 weeks later. The 18th work for everybody? Okay. In June, I don't know what you guys are thinking for June. It's very likely I'm going to be out of town the first 2 weeks of June, so like the 3rd through the 17th. But if y'all want to leave it on the 5th, that's okay, and I can just miss.
Okay.
No, I've not missed a council meeting yet in 4 years, so I could maybe miss one. You think?
We can just shut down.
That's it. So June the 5th at 6:30, and then that would put us at about June the 21st, that Wednesday perhaps? Is that?
I will be at a treasurer's conference, but that's okay. I can come back.
What
How
about
about the 22nd?
What about we bump it to that next week if you're going to be out of town?
The
What-
22nd, I'll be back.
You'll be back the 22nd? What about the 23rd? Because I'm going to be
That's a
at
Friday.
work that day. Yeah, it is a Friday. Let's do the 22nd, and I'll adjust. If I have that much notice, I can surely make it work. And is that all we're looking for right now?
Let's do the 3rd for the council meeting.
July?
Yes.
July 3rd.
Yeah, the 4th is on a Tuesday, so that's when we'll be closed.
Yeah, let's go ahead and pencil in 6:30, the July the 3rd. Amanda, you'll be out of
I
town
won't
that
be
week,
here
won't
that
you?
week. No,
Okay.
can we do it, last week we did it, we moved
Uh,
it down a week in July, could we do that? Because I think that the 3rd, there may be other people who
Yeah,
want to
what if
travel
we
that
do
week
the
too.
10th? That way it'll take it out of that holiday week, because that week may be a little bit scarce. Yeah, let's do the 10th. July the 10th. And then for July, for mid-monthly meeting, you want to just put that one on hold for right now, since we've got basically 7 months to decide. Council, everybody got those down?
Yep.
Wayne, you
Yep.
good? All right, excellent. What about old business? Do we have any I'm missing? Mr. Cochran?
So we don't have much, well, actually, we still have a good bit of our staff here.
Okay.
So this was my first Christmas parade, and I'm so used to a daytime Christmas parade, so it was neat to see the nighttime. But the thing I just wanted to mention, as we was coming into this, I had talked to Chief Holbrook a couple times, just trying to square away, make sure were covered on this. And I went out on Saturday to the Coombs Center for it was packed. I mean, it was all our people, it was packed. It was everybody from Public Works, and everybody from the fire department, the volunteers, everybody, and then all the police, and it was, and it was just really, it was neat to see, but it was a whole collaborative team effort, and, we cleared the vehicles off the road, so we would have, plenty of places for the people to march and all that stuff, but it was seamless. It really went off well. I was just glad to see it, and really proud of the organization we have here. It really came off great, and those types of things to have stuff like that, have it go so smoothly was just really nice to see. And just one point to comment on, one of the folks at the beginning of the meeting mentioned their restrooms behind the visitor center. Their issue with that was we were having vandalism, after-hours vandalism, and so we're in the process of putting in a magnetic lock system so we can control it with times remotely without having to be there and physically lock it. But until that is in, staff is just locking and unlocking it at the beginning of every day. And for some reason we don't quite understand, someone has marked that on Google. So when visitors are coming down the highway, if they want a nice private place, they sometimes go there, and we get a lot more usage than your average public restroom at that facility. But that said, once we get the magnetic locks on, we'll be able to have those open for more, better hours for people. So, yeah.
What else are we missing?
Trying to think. So one thing I did do, I printed out a monthly report for y'all, and I'm actually going to start posting that online as well, because there's been some inquiries from the community. People just want to have an idea what's going on out there. And so I just have that typed out there. And I just, glad to be here, and I love working with staff. We got some really, really awesome people. And thank Mr. Owens for his service. I know.
Well, bringing it up, it's been an honor to serve the citizens of Abingdon, and it's been an honor to be on this council. But what really makes it work well are those people back there. We have a great team, great set of employees, and so we're set. The town of Abingdon's set to do well for quite some time. So but I've enjoyed working with you guys, and thank you all.
It's been fun. It's been fun. Well, that is a natural time for us to have council member reports. Would anybody like to say anything?
Well, I want to add to just saying that I feel really blessed to have worked with you, Mike, and that you are a gentleman and you're pragmatic and you're exactly the kind of citizen servant the town council needs. And I hope you'll find your way back one day.
Thank you.
And I will miss you.
I'll miss you.
I agree, 100%. I know I'll see you around, but I'll miss you here. I also wanted to say, going way back to the beginning of the meeting, that we've had some conversations about the boats and campers, and I actually had a long conversation with the town manager, and I've had a long conversation with our town attorney, and I reached out to the Attorney General's office for a formal opinion on that, because we did find some old opinions that go back, I think, Cam can correct me, like 2003. And I think the Attorney General's office has been busy with some big things that have happened in the past few weeks, so I have not heard back from them, but I will follow up. I reached out to Chuck Slimp, and so there might be an answer there. For example, it may be that if a boat or camper is housed in the town for less than 6 months, then we don't tax them. So I wanted to find out, before I responded to Mr. Matney, we wanted to find out the correct legal ramifications, because that might solve the problem. But we didn't want to make any statements about it until we knew for sure what they were. So that is being addressed. We weren't ignoring the issue.
Sure. And I concur with that. Amanda and I have had many discussions, and we have certainly given it a lot of thought and talked with the other council members and town staff, and we want to make sure we're doing the legal thing before we make any kind of announcement formally or anything.
And I talked to some business owners, and there are some business owners who do feel the impact of that situation. So we want to minimize that for our businesses in town, but we want to make sure we're doing everything exactly the right way at the same time.
Yeah, sure.
One thing I forgot to mention, for those of you that didn't see it or who just want to see, I know you made a cameo appearance, and and so did Dwayne. But the parade was live streamed, and so our staff, in conjunction with staff from the Barter, they put on a live stream out front by the fountain, and it went off pretty well. And so it was really unique. If you want to see it, it's on YouTube. So if you just Google search Abington Christmas Parade YouTube, and it'll show up as a live stream. And we had about 3,400 or so views as of this morning. But it's pretty interesting. So you get some guest appearances and whatnot. But for the thing that was neat is that some of our staff, Chad and Tanya, they went out and they visited the assisted living facilities and places like that have people that are shut-ins and can't get out, and they were able to watch it. So it was kind of neat. And for a town this size to be able to pull that off, it was really, really, really cool. And they got some great ideas for going forward for next year, so it'll be even better.
And I would too resonate with the Christmas parade. I had a few little notes, but I would like to thank Kiwanis for once again setting the bar super, super high this year for the Christmas parade. I said it last year, and it was one of the best I've ever seen, and I think this year was every bit as good, if not better, for a town our size to have that type of parade. And that brings me right into what I was going to say after that. And thank you to the volunteers, and most importantly the staff, the time and the effort they put in, the infrastructure it takes to pull off a parade that's 45 minutes or an hour long in a town our size is pretty significant. So thank you, each and every one of you, for the planning and the Abingdon Police Department. Just everything went off just flawlessly. not one time during the entire route that I feel like anybody was in any kind of harm at all whatsoever. And that is truly something to be grateful and impressed of. So thank you to everybody who was involved. It was great, and we can't wait to do that again. And again, for Mike, it's been a pleasure. I said it many, many times. You are an intelligible, steady hand, and I have truly enjoyed having you by my side. So that's something I will miss. So I'll just have to start, going out to dinner with you now or something, since it's not technically a meeting, right? But thank you for your service.
Agreed. Thank you.
Council, anything else during reports? I know it's getting late. Do we miss anything else?
Wayne.
And then last but not least, I want to welcome Mr. Wayne Austin. Thank you for being here tonight.
Yes.
Congratulations on the
Yes.
election results. We're very excited to have you on board. I have no doubt you'll be just as steady a hand, and we're very excited.
I just hope I can fill those shoes partially. He is a gentleman and a scholar, and has done a
Yes.
tremendous job serving the
Yes.
town.
It's true.
I agree with fully what you said.
We're very blessed. I say this all the time. We've got a great
Yes.
council, but we also have people such as yourself who are very qualified, reputable, and willing to step up and fill the shoes. So thank you for being here, and we're excited. Yeah, absolutely. Don't think I've missed anything, council. We don't have any appointments or closed sessions. So Cam, you've got that look on your face. We ready? All right, we're adjourned.
Yeah.